Okay, so I know that we talk a lot about family influencers, mom influencers, family vloggers, and why people keep their kids online, but today I wanted to talk about why they take them off. So this is based on a story that I wrote for Cosmopolitan called We're Never Doing This Again, what it took for these parenting influencers to pull their kids offline. And for this story, I talked to Annalie Grace. I don't know if you follow her on Instagram or TikTok, but she's so funny. She has hundreds of thousands of followers. She's a mom of 2, and she first started creating content when she was pregnant with her second child, and she would upload it to TikTok, where she quickly grew a following. She would share about the joy and loneliness of early motherhood and everything from postpartum intrusive thoughts to what she was making for dinner. Like many young millennial moms who came of age in the era of sharing everything on the internet, it was just kind of second nature to Annalie to share. And she didn't think twice about posting her children. So if you had followed her back in 2021 when she first started posting, you would have known her children's names, you would have seen them take their first steps, you would have seen and known so much about them. But if you look at her accounts today, you will barely catch a glimpse of her kids. You actually won't even know their names. And if you do see them, it's the back of their heads, or sometimes it's them with emojis over their faces, so you never see their faces. So the way that this happened for Annalie, she was talking to another mom friend in the spring of 2023, and they were talking about sharing online, and the mom friend was saying like, oh, it's only a couple hundred people that follow the mom friend, and so it like wasn't really a big deal to be sharing online. And Annalie remembers thinking, wait a second, like all of a sudden she started thinking about the people that followed her as actual people, and she started thinking, okay, it's basically like if I push my children onto a stage in front of 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 people, and they would be so scared. She said their little eyes would turn to fear and they would run to me. That was a heartbreaking visual. Then when I think about doing that in front of all these people, that would be terrifying for them. I just woke up one day and thought, what am I doing? So since coming to that realization, Annalie has not shown her kids online. And if she does, like I said, it's either from the back or she covers them with an emoji. And she says that part of her calculation is looking toward the future. She remembers her own angsty adolescence, and she thinks about how much worse that would have been as an influencer kid, which is actually something that I think about too when I'm thinking about whether or not to share my daughter online, which I don't share her online, but I think about, do I want this memorialized, and what would I have felt as a teenager looking back on this? And so I don't know, I'm kind of curious. If you share your kids online, I want to know if you think about this, and if you don't, also tell me what you think. But Annalie said, I can't imagine how I would have used that against my parents if I had grown up like that. It would destroy me as a preteen. To know that thousands of strangers knew about my potty training, I just think it could totally backfire. Annalie is part of this growing cohort of creators within the sharenting world, where they are parenting creators and they do create content around parenting. They're huge on TikTok, they're huge on YouTube, they're huge on Instagram, but they don't show their kids. And it's interesting because just a few years ago, it would have been totally unthinkable for a mom influencer to keep her kids private, but now it's not uncommon. As concerns about the rights and privacy of child influencers just get more intense, more parents who are influencers are deciding to keep their kids offline, even while still creating parenting content. And also, I'm curious if you follow any of these parents online who don't show their kids. Increasingly, the parent influencer industry is filled with controversy. So there was the former family YouTuber Ruby Frankie, who was sentenced to up to 30 years in prison for child abuse. There was that mom who inadvertently recorded and posted a video of her encouraging her son to cry over his dying pet. There was that bombshell New York Times investigation that showed just how many of the followers of young female influencers are actually older men. And it's not only these kind of like more salacious headlines or concerns that are concerning parents. Like it's things like, do I want my kid to have a digital footprint that they couldn't consent to? Annalie isn't the first sharenter to pull a total 180. So I don't know, did any of you follow Maya Knight? She was one of the biggest, and she has over 8 million followers on TikTok, but has not shown her kids in a few years. There was also Laura Fritz. There's also parents who don't show their kids from the beginning. So Allison Cooch comes to mind for that. But it can be hard to make that decision to take your kids offline if you had previously shown them. So one of the people that I talked to was Grant Kambalanov. Grant had over 3 million TikTok followers on a family account with him and his wife, and they would show their young children. He said, our channel took off overnight and we just started going down the rabbit hole. He said, it sucks you in and it changes your life, and it is very, very tough to get out of. So he described to me his decision to take his kids offline that came as an epiphany, that's the word he used, when the family was on vacation at Disney. So he said that his kids, instead of like just having fun and like having a regular time at Disney, they were constantly looking around for a camera or to be told what to do or what the angles were. And that just blew his mind. He said the next day that he woke up in a cold sweat and he was just like, I'm never doing this again. It's really interesting because in reporting this story, I talked to people who don't show their kids online anymore, but didn't want to go on the record about it because they didn't want to seem like they were judging parents who did show their kids online. They also worried that talking to me could invite scrutiny of their past and present. And it is really interesting because parents who have taken their kids offline, if you look at their comment sections, it is so interesting. Like people are like, oh my God, I miss your kid, their auntie misses them, like please come back, why did you take them from us? Like it's very intense. And I feel like that speaks to like the parasocial relationship of it all, where you kind of get, as a viewer, you get so involved and invested in these people that you feel like you're owed something, even though like obviously it's the parents' choice. And it can be really hard for parents to keep their kids offline, even if they know that they want to. Like when I talked to Annalise, she was like, but my kids are so cute and they're so special and they're so fun. And like, I do want to share that with people. But then she says that something about keeping it for myself makes it 10 times more special than posting it online. And that's actually how I feel about my daughter too. Like part of me does want to share her with other people. And then part of me is like, no, she's mine. And I want to keep her safe and precious and just like, that's my girl. But it is interesting. It seems like there is a new way for parent influencers to exist online. They can be parent influencers and they don't have to show their kids. So I'm interested to know, because I do think that this kind of like trickles down to us like regular people. But do you show your kids? And if so, how did you make that choice? And if not, again, how did you make that choice? And if you're interested in more deep dives like this, please make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my next video.